Now, I'm curious about your weekend, and I'm curious to know how you went through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and of course, if you're looking forward to the new week. I hope you are looking forward to the new week, and of course, this is a new month. We are in the month of November, and some people have already started playing Christmas carols. Others have started decorating their Christmas trees. So I'm curious to know what you are doing in preparation for the big day that is Christmas. But of course, we will have a lot of time to talk about Christmas, to talk about the festivities, to talk about what you should do, where you should go, where you should shop. There is Black Friday everywhere, so I'm hoping that you will be able to do some shopping and save some money. But that being said, I would like to check in on the team. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning, Olive. How are you doing this morning?
I am great. How are you?
I'm okay. Freshly ready for this brand new week, and of course it is actually giving us lots of room for improvement, I should say, and also giving us other ideas of how to make it in life, I should as well add. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. Good morning to all our dear Ugandans, and very much I should say we are humbled that you are watching the show with us this morning.
Well, that is Jerome Paul Sonko. Now there is another lady on the team, that is Chantal Olive, my namesake. Good morning, lady.
Good morning, Olive. Welcome back, first of all. How are you feeling?
I'm much better, thank you.
It's good to have you back. I am very well, and I'm also glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to a very beautiful week. And I'm thinking to myself, November should be the month that I go back and revisit my notes for the beginning of the year, so that I see how to strategize for next year. Yes, I'm so early, but yeah, December is usually funny. You close your eyes and the next thing it's January. So
I know.
I'm hoping to do that, and I'm also hoping that our dearest viewer is doing well this morning. And it gets chilly sometimes and then gets hot. That's Kampala weather. So move accordingly and dress accordingly. Prepare for anything. Clearly, at this rate, you prepare for anything. Carry a jacket if you can, an umbrella if you can, because you never know what could happen the next minute. Yeah.
And of course, we are moving to a point where some people will go out, like let's say on a Friday evening, and they're still home on Sunday. I hope that person is not you. You're going to live responsibly, because the bar months, especially in November and December, have so much that is exciting. But away from exciting, there is also a habit that is cropping up on us, and it is becoming a thing. Last week, a driver of Link buses was caught on camera texting, checking his WhatsApp while driving. And of course, because of citizen journalism, someone recorded him. The video went viral, and last week he was presented in court and charged. How does that make you feel, Jerome Paul?
Well, it does not make me feel happy at all, because I've almost for a couple of times become a victim of the same. When you look at what is actually happening in our country today, even when you move in Kampala right now, you realize that we do have many drivers, or very many Ugandans, who drive while texting. And it's either someone is on WhatsApp, or they are scrolling through a different social media platform, and it's only one hand on the wheel. And when you look at the situation, rather on the steering wheel, when you look at such situations, it is okay for someone to drive with one hand on the steering wheel, really.
But your eyes should
as well be focused. Now, in certain circumstances here in the country, more so in Kampala, you'll find that you're seeing an individual on phone while driving. Now, chances are you're not paying attention to what is in front of you.
That's true.
So at any one moment, you're either going to knock someone or you're going to knock your fellow driver. And it will actually, lead to other incidents here and there. It may be an accident, or you may actually, damage your car, or damage another person's car in the same situation. Or kill someone, really. So I think first, what the Ugandans who are in that bus did, I would first of all commend them for that. because you know, being confident enough to share that video as well, as other people are not minding about the same, clearly shows that this person was really mindful about their life and then the life of the fellow passengers they were moving with. And I think we should as well all be vigilant in case you look at someone driving. You can as well stop them and tell them to, you know, exercise good driving skills, because we, you know, we are all going to be affected in one way or the other.
Usually,
sorry, wait until the day you get you sit say on a safe border, and this safe border is watching YouTube videos while taking you home. Yes,
YouTube videos?
Yes, this happened to me. I was in disbelief. I tried to have a conversation with this person, telling him, hey, listen, this is the part that I'm going to branch off from. The gentleman, only to look in front, he was watching YouTube videos while on the road. I was not amused.
My goodness.
Not at all. And this was, I'm not afraid to say that it was a safe border guy.
And yet, personally, I've always felt safer with a safe border ride, because using these other random borders, in most cases, they don't listen to instruction, they drive, they are normally over speeding, and in most cases, when you tell them to use a certain route, they won't budge. So I've always felt safer with that.
Until you land on one reckless
my
one.
Goodness.
Yes.
Now that is not encouraging. So if you know you're a safe border, or a border rider for that matter, really on a bike watching YouTube videos, that is really dangerous. And of course, like Sonko said, when you're in public transport or even a private car and you feel like your driver is overspeeding or doing something they're not supposed to do while on the road, it helps you to speak up. Many times when there has been an accident, most times when you speak to the passengers, they will say, he was over speeding, but we feared to tell him, you know, drivers, you can't tell them what to do. You can tell them what to do, or you can collectively decide to disembark from that car, because you'd rather be late to wherever you're going than reach there dead. Seriously. So we need to be really careful, and especially during these months when we're going into the festive season, usually the numbers of road carnage go high, so we need to be vigilant, we need to be each other's keeper. Look out for your driver, see what they're doing. Maybe it will save your life and the life of others that may be in that vehicle. But that being said, we will be giving you the local news stories right about now, and I will start with a story by the DPP Kajezi. Now, the DPP, Jane Francis Abodo, has sanctioned charges of terrorism and murder against 4 key suspects that were involved in killing the late Joan Kagezi, who was a senior assistant DPP head. She says it is a breakthrough in the murder investigation of senior assistant DPP Joan Kagezi, and a statement has been released on the Twitter handle of the Directorate of Public Prosecutions reading. Now, moving on, the Uganda National Examinations Board has warned head teachers not to deny exams to candidates due to seat primary leaving examinations this week. UNEB spokesperson Jennifer Kaulem-Samba told UBC that such defiant school heads will be punished. Starting with briefing of exam scouts today, Monday, over 700,000 primary 7 pupils will sit final primary leaving exams starting Wednesday. Uganda National Examinations Board spokesperson Jennifer Kaulem-Samba has said head teachers must allow candidates who have not completed paying school dues to sit exams. She warned against abuse of social media to circulate forged exam papers. Also, UNEB advised candidates to take note of weather changes and get to the examination rooms. She also urged parents to create a conducive environment for the candidates. Over 700,000 P7 pupils registered for 2023 exams that are to be conducted in 14,442 centers countrywide. And moving on, Muslims gathered at the headquarters of the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council in Wakiso Muslim District in a memorable ceremony of King Rashid Kalema Muguluma of Buganda. The first Deputy Mufti, Sheikh Muhammad Semambo, who represented the Mufti of Uganda, urged Muslims to take Islam forward. King Rashid Kalema Muguluma of Buganda fought for Islam during the colonial era. And lastly, on the local scene, the National Children Authority has urged parents to take care of their children as schools close for holidays. National Children Authority President Martin Kiza said parents are advised to take their responsibility and not to bully their children. Across the country, schools are preparing to return learners for holidays. The National Children Authority has urged parents to focus on training and advising their children on morals and behavior for a healthy family. National Children Authority Executive Martin Kiza says if parents educate their children and avoid violence, the number of children ending up on the streets will decrease. Launching the book titled 7 Powers Works in a Man, NCA Executive Director Martin Kiza praised the author of the book, Onyango Olo, for his ideas on how to develop Ugandans. Luzira Parish LC3 Councillor Rogers Kiza says the cooperation of parents and leaders has addressed drug addiction in young people. That's it for the local news stories. Now we cross over into the international news stories.
A hostage situation in Hamburg airport involving a young child has ended after 18 hours, according to local police. The man, 35, drove through a security barrier onto the airport tarmac on Saturday night with his 4-year-old daughter in the car and parked under a plane. He eventually gave himself up to the authorities without resistance, according to police, and was arrested. The child appears to be unharmed, they wrote on X, formerly known as Twitter. The incident caused the disruption of several flights in and out of the airport. Operations have since resumed, but there are significant delays. It began at about 20 hours local time when the suspect drove his car to the airport's apron, the area where aircrafts are usually parked. Police said the man shot his weapon twice in the air and threw burning bottles from the vehicle. It was unclear if the man had explosives. They later clarified that he stopped the vehicle where a commercial flight full of passengers was preparing to take off. Everyone on board was evacuated safely. Moving on, heavy bombardment has been ongoing through the night across Gaza as the death toll continues to rise. At least 9,770 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza since October 7th. The leaders of the Palestinian group Fatah have denounced what they described as Israel's barbaric war of extermination and called on the international community to stop the war. UNRWA, the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency, says it has been unable to reach the vast majority of its team in Gaza due to a communication breakdown. CIA Director William Burns is visiting the Middle East as the United States faces pressure to rein in the relentless attacks and call for a ceasefire. Also, U.S. investment could help African countries make the most of its critical minerals and industrialize their economies, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has said. At the opening ceremony of a major U.S.-Africa trade summit in Johannesburg, he said, "Africa is an important source of critical raw material, but we do not want to be defined as simply the producers of commodities." He added that African countries would profit greatly from keeping these materials in-house and transforming them into goods that can then be sold globally, rather than exporting the resources to countries with greater manufacturing capabilities. We look forward to the United States working with African countries to foster an investment-led approach that aims to diversify international supply chains of critical minerals by beneficiating these resources here on African continent, Mr. Ramaphosa said. Now, speaking matters climate, Global climate negotiators reached a framework for a fund to help vulnerable nations deal with loss and damage from increasingly extreme weather, though the breakthrough was marred by sparring over exactly how the program would be funded. Delegates meeting in Abu Dhabi agreed late Saturday that the World Bank will host a new loss and damage fund on an interim basis for 4 years, breaking an impasse through months of negotiations. They also set basic guideposts for funding, with developed countries urged to provide support. That is it for Matters Climate and also what is happening internationally.
Thank you, Chantal, for that news report. Now, Jerome Paulsonko takes us through this morning's press review.
And now with me, I have copies of the New Vision and the Daily Monitor. The New Vision with the headline, Kagezi case, key suspects arrested. And of course, President Museveni says, I congratulate CID ISO on the good work. Besides that, crime controversy erupts over businessman shot dead. Read about that in the New Vision. President Museveni speaks out on oil import deal. As in the health perspective, how to tell your beloved you have HIV. Read about that in the New Vision. Then police impound luxury car suspected stolen from the United Kingdom, as Bishop Stewart kicks out Nkozi University in the quiz. Also, Chabazinga 6 Bunyoro blessings ahead of royal wedding. The Daily Monitor, director has been arrested over defiling 6 P7 pupils. Which director is that? More of the investigations ongoing. Then blocked works, the works on city roads and railway disrupt transport in Kampala. Read about it as you prepare to maneuver through the traffic madness this week. Then 5 government officials in hot water for leaving drugs in rain. As President Museveni says, we now have suspects in Kagezi killing. Then also President Museveni shows plan to lower cost of fuel. Then in the other news, the many hats of former CID boss Bakiza war. Read about the same as Dr. Kazungu says. Read about Dr. Kazungu, who is the grandfather of education, having passed on. Read more about those series in the Daily Monitor. Later on, as we move on in the show, we shall as well be looking at the top stories making headlines across the East African region.
Well, that's it for our press review as of this hour. But like Sonko said, we will be giving you more later on from the East African countries of Kenya and Tanzania. Now, among the stories you shared, Sonko, there is one of the director that has been defiling P7 pupils. Such stories leave a sour taste in my mouth, because it saddens me, first of all, as a Ugandan and as a parent, that the people entrusted with protecting people's children are the same people that are abusing them.
Well, 6 students, they're actually 6 pupils.
Yeah.
So you can imagine it's more like a recurring situation.
Yes, yes.
That those are the ones that we have got to know. There could be
and others, because usually
Yes.
victims of abuse, of sexual abuse, don't speak up. So you may find that there is a higher number. But I'm glad he was arrested. And honestly speaking, if you know anyone that is doing this, or if, and even as parents, we really need to talk to our children. We really need to be friends with them,
Yes.
because this is the only way they will be open to us and tell us things like this before they fester. They will tell you that my teacher is looking at me funny. My teacher touched me in a funny way, so that you can nip this in the bud before it happens. But I am happy that this person was arrested, and I pray that he may be brought to book and that justice may be served. For now, we are going to take a short break. We will leave you with a song by Limo Blaze and Adehi, and it is Good God.
Some may trust in horses, others in chariots, but I'll trust you. Yes, I'll try.
How you went through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and of course if you're looking forward to the new week. I hope you are looking forward to the new week, and of course this is a new month. We are in the month of November, and some people have already started playing Christmas carols, others have started decorating their Christmas trees. So I'm curious to know what you are doing in preparation for the big day that is Christmas. But of course we will have a lot of time to talk about Christmas, to talk about the festivities, to talk about what you should do, where you should go, where you should shop. There is Black Friday everywhere, so I'm hoping that you will be able to do some shopping and save some money. But that being said, I would like to check in on the team. Good morning, Jerome Paul.
Well, good morning, Olive. How are you doing this morning?
I am great. How are you?
I'm okay. Freshly ready for this brand new week, and of course it is actually giving us lots of room for improvement, I should say,
Yeah.
and also giving us other ideas of how to make it in life, I should as well add. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko. Good morning to all our dear Ugandans, and very much I should say we are humbled that you are watching the show with us this morning.
Well, that is Jerome Paul Sonko. Now there is another lady on the team, that is Chantal Olive, my namesake. Good morning, lady.
Good morning, Olive. Welcome back, first of all. How are you feeling?
I'm much better. Thank you.
It's
How
good
are
to
you?
have you back. I am very well, and I'm also glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to a very beautiful week. And I'm thinking to myself, November should be the month that I go back and revisit my notes for the beginning of the year, so that I see how to strategize for next year. Yes, I'm so early, but yeah. December is usually funny. You close your eyes and the next thing it's January. So
I know.
I'm hoping to do that, and I'm also hoping that our dearest viewer is doing well this morning. And it gets chilly sometimes and then gets hot. That's Kampala weather. So move accordingly and dress accordingly. Prepare for anything. Clearly, at this rate, prepare for anything. Carry a jacket if you can, an umbrella if you can, because you never know what could happen the next minute. Yeah.
And of course, we are moving to a point where some people will go out, like let's say on a Friday evening, and they're seen home on Sunday. I hope that person is not you. You're going to live responsibly, because the bar months, especially in November and December, have so much that is exciting. But away from exciting, there is also a habit that is cropping up on us, and it is becoming a thing. Last week, a driver of Link buses was caught on camera texting, checking his WhatsApp while driving. And of course, because of citizen journalism, someone recorded him. The video went viral, and last week he was presented in court and charged. How does that make you feel, Jerome Paul?
Well, it does not make me feel happy at all, because I've almost for a couple of times become a victim of the same. When you look at what is actually happening in our country today, even when you move in Kampala right now, you realize that we do have many drivers, or very many Ugandans, who drive while texting. And it's either someone is on WhatsApp or they are scrolling through a different...
MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
In Bushenyi district, we run a number of programs ranging from service delivery to wealth creation. We have the presidential initiative on wealth creation, a MUGA program, where we have 34 circles that have been given funds for the last 2 years, of which each circle received 33 million, and only 2 managed to receive 50 million each. These funds have enabled the different categories of our population to engage into business-related activities, and we can see their incomes getting better Some of them are into tailoring, others into mechanics, into carpentry, hairdressing, all mention it. And so far, they are running their enterprises smoothly.
Mukoke Fish Farmers Association tuli balunzi ba byananda ebyebika ebisatu omuli Miracap, tilapia oba engege ni catfish twete male. Group eno twatandika twali abantu basatu nga tulingirira obwetaavu obwebyenanda obw'obwiva eno okubona nti tufuna okasente akava mu maadi agali gatambula butambule nga gatubita ku wano ng'ekirabo. Twatandika ni fish pond ndala mu mwaka gw'e2018. Twebaza fisheries officer ni district ya Bugiri babanga batulagirira ku Sani Fish Farm ebwikwe inside day ndeyo twabanga tusobola okufuna kwetusaako obugege obwasooka era mu mwaka ogwali 2020 awo basobola okubanga batuwaayo ebyenanda emitwalo $40 okuva mu operation werese creation era okuba yongereza ku emmere yatuweebwa okuva Uganda Poultry Breeders. Twasobola okubanga tusoloza akasente akawerera obukayire nga 42. Twasobola okubanga tubuinvestinga oba okubona nti twongerezaako ku bimu ku bintu bye tukola gano. Twebaza gavumenti yaife okubanga buli saawa efaayo okubanga efeeri y'Abannayuganda.
Welcome back. This is the time where we have a newsreel. Time check is 2 minutes past 7 o'clock this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're joining us right now, thank you again for being a part of Good Morning Uganda. My name is Olive Monica Najama, and I am here with Jerome Paul Sonko and Chantal Olive Kandinda. Now, the hour of the newsreel is where we usually have a topical discussion regarding many issues that could be affecting us. And right now, we'd like to speak matters elections. As you know, Uganda is going to the polls in 2026. And of course, as a Ugandan of, of a certain age, if you're 18 and above, you're very interested. I'm suspecting that you are interested in the elections of this country. And of course, if you are a youth, your voice has been represented as the youth suggested some electoral reforms that they want to be adopted so that they can feel involved in the next elections. As they were presenting their reforms to the Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister, Norbert Mao, they had a lot to say and they had many suggestions that they presented. Which are these suggestions? That's what we want to look into, but also want to have a wider picture of elections that are forthcoming. Where are we? Are we ready? reforms the Electoral Commission promised us, have they been lifted off the paper, and is something being done to include many things that were promised and suggested? We will be having this conversation, but to start with, I would like to go to Jerome Paul Sonko and find out what are some of the reforms that the youth are calling for as far as the elections are concerned come 2026.
Well, the youth are looking at the nominal fees or the nominational fees that are normally asked for before someone goes in. And some of these particular, the nomination fees that we are speaking of include, there's a current of, for parliamentary candidates, the fee is 5 million Ugandan shillings. Now, the young people feel with 5 million Ugandan shillings being asked in order to go in and pick your nominations or stand for a member of parliament, they feel that amount of money is quite a huge sum for many of the young people. And they are not wrong, because some of them are just starting to, you know, to get into the political space. Others are not financially well as much, or others are not funded by their well-to-do of families as the privileged may be. So they're actually suggesting that from the 5 million, it would be better if the Electoral Commission, the Independent Electoral Commission of Uganda, would reduce this amount to 3 million Ugandan shillings. But not only that, they also feel there should be a reduction of the nomination fee for special interest groups from the current 3 million to 200,000. Because if you're looking at special interest groups, this also includes people with disabilities and the like. So which means that 3 million, according to the young people, is too much for a fee, and they feel 200,000 Ugandan shillings should as well be in there. Now, this other one is not only attached to the youth, but also the leaders from the opposition side, all the leaders of the political parties who believe the government should as well make some changes, or the Electoral Commission should as well make some changes that will see Ugandans, or that will enable all prisoners to take charge in voting, as well as Ugandans in the diaspora. And this is to enable the election to be inclusive for every Ugandan out there. More so if every Ugandan is interested in voting. So these are some of the reforms that they feel should be given. Because when you look at some of the young people, they believe that one of the reasons as to why they are not actively engaging in our elections today is because of some of these fees.
Okay. Because
even when you're campaigning, you will need to have quite a number of, you know, funding, or what you could say, sources of funds and all that.
It now leaves a question, though, of if you want to get involved in the elections of the country, but are unable to stand on your own 2 feet, aren't you the kind of person that will, if voted for, and you're now in a public office, aren't you the kind of person that might add to the already scathing corruption problem?
Well, but then again, we do have people that are from well-to-do backgrounds who are in there and they're doing the most in the same.
True.
Still, I hear you. But what would you say to the person who says, if you cannot afford, let's say if nomination fees are 3 million shillings and you are suggesting that they be dropped to 200,000, that means you're already not in position to afford some, because let's look at it this way. Some of the challenges members of parliament face, and one of the reasons why we have corruption festering, especially in public offices, is because people are already living beyond their means. A member of parliament gets voted, and when they get into that office, they now have to change the way they dress, where they stay, and all that stuff. And some of these people have some money, okay, before they are voted. Now imagine someone that was that poor and now they are voted for. What do you expect them to do to, you know, to keep up with the Joneses?
The truth is, we do not have a guarantee that when these people get in there, they will do what has taken them. However, like I said, we have seen cases where one is from a well-to-do family, but when they get inside there, they still embezzle government funds, and they become corrupt as well. However, maybe this is the part where we need to assess someone's someone's ideas and put them to parliament because of ideas. Now, the unfortunate bit is, even as the electorates, we actually put people in certain positions, or we vote them into positions because of different reasons aside from the ideas and what they're bringing to the table.
Actually, it looks more like when it comes to our elections, many people do not care so much about the ideas, because when is the last time you looked at someone's manifesto
and even followed up to make them accountable? You get it. So at the end of the day, we can now center our conversation or center our focus, or what we look at as a basis for what they can do, putting aside how much they have and which background they're coming from, and look at the angle of what ideas are they bringing to the table. Now, the part would be if when they get to parliament also, they'll put those ideas in place. The part of whether they can get in there and not steal money or embezzle money or be corrupt, honestly speaking, we may not have control, because even those who've trusted before have broken our trust.
So what's your say on the reduction of nomination fees? I see they suggest that parliamentary candidates, the nomination fees should be deducted from 5 million to 3, and of course special interest groups from 3 million to 200,000 shillings. What do you have to say about that?
You can't deny the fact that the age bracket of, say, 18 to 35, that is the bracket of the youth, recognized. You can't deny the fact that they may not be in position to afford that much money. And it could be from a genuine place, that the 5 million you're asking for may not be available to this person. That is one, because of the constraints. Look at this person funding their own campaign, if they have to campaign. Look at this person putting in money to, they're moving to these places, trying to reach out, trying to mobilize. A lot of money is spent. That is why even those who seemingly have the money, when they get into power, they actually want to take everything that they get.
Because
you know why?
Because
they've spent so much in these elections. Now you want the youth, who take 70% of our population, to one, represent well the country and be represented as well. We are the future generation.
But when we speak about the youth, which age bracket are we looking at?
We're looking at 18 to 35. But if you're talking about if you're to look at it from that angle, look at maybe people in the age bracket of 34, 33, between, actually, say, let's count from 20 to 35. How are they doing financially? You realize that it has a genuine element of, let's cut that money. They're not saying let's do it for free. They're saying let's reduce that money
from 3 million to 200,000. Isn't that quite a big reduction, though? Also, the other thing to consider is that elections world over, elections are expensive, and maybe instead of crying foul, oh, we can't afford this because we are the youth, we could also look into sponsors. When you look at, for instance, I'll give you an example of elections, let's say in the United States, you're going to find that the presidential elections are highly funded by either the party or the people that subscribe to the party. But this individualism of I must finance myself, maybe that's where the problem is.
We do have political parties funding themselves and also soliciting.
Do they finance all their candidates?
Probably not, but also soliciting funds from elsewhere. But have you ever realized that that money is conditional, and maybe that's why this person is trying to avoid the sponsors coming in? Imagine you don't want to be tagged on the part of neo-colonialism. I'm giving an example. And then there is a body out there that wants to fund you as a candidate. Now you're stuck in between, should I take this money or should I leave it? And remember, when you take that money, they have a certain level of control over you, whether we like it or not.
Okay, but I feel like that usually applies to, let's say, bigger candidates, let's say a presidential candidate. When it comes to others, like members of parliament, I feel like their funders are usually internal.
They should be internal, but still, whoever funds you, Olive, whoever funds you has a certain level of control over you. And that's what some of these youth are actually trying to avoid. Because someone will be like, let me put money in this child and use them, make sure they get to this position because I want to get something from there.
Because
it happens.
The young people actually are suggesting as well that the money that is allocated to political parties that are already represented in parliament should as well there should be a percentage going to, you know, funding youth campaigns during the election, or to help the youth who are involved in politics, because we do have young people who are involved, who are actively involved in politics, right from institutions, you know, institution of higher learning.
Yes.
We've seen many who are representing various political parties.
Right.
So they feel, even those who are coming in as independent candidates, that at least this time round, some of the money that is actually being allocated to these political parties should go to their campaigns. Though there is also the other, you know, reform that they're actually suggesting of having Ugandans in the diaspora getting involved into the elections. Now, this is going to be another tricky one in relation to how many of them are interested in voting.
Actually, Ugandans in the diaspora are very interested,
yes,
in voting.
But not as much as we may actually think.
No, they are.
You know?
They are very interested.
But then also...
And you can also not... would you say that you do not give a provision for a certain group of people because you're not sure they're about how much they're interested?
Give it to them.
No, I think the
let them decide.
My only issue would be how we shall be following up on those elections in relation to, I want to believe the elections will be taking place from the embassies, if I'm not mistaken. Where,
usually, yes.
And well, of course, that how tricky it would be is how we shall be following up on those results.
Are you trying to say, are you wondering whether Ugandans, for instance, those that vote for the opposition, whether their votes will be tallied correctly, whether it will be fair?
No, I'm wondering whether the Electoral Commission has the
concern.
capacity to overlook
It should
the
have.
other, you know, the other elections that will be taking place at the same time with the different time zones. And you get it's rather a tricky one.
Yes, because according to the law, the tallying centers should have their results at a certain time.
Yes.
Now, imagine someone who lives in Australia or someone that lives in the United States, and even in the United States, the West Coast and East Coast, they have different time zones,
yes.
and of course Canada and these other countries. So what Sonko is trying to ask, how will we know that these results are going to be brought in at a given time? I think we can, the Electoral Commission should be able to come up with a roadmap on how to handle that,
and I
give
think
an allowance.
if we're to look into the reforms as well, this is something that the Electoral Commission should as well be looking at, how we prepare ourselves in case those in the diaspora are going to vote.
Especially because
You know.
the rollout recently was considering adding people in the diaspora to be able to vote. I would really love to look into the plan and know how they're planning to execute this, because like there is put it, we have very good things on paper and we have a challenge with execution and implementation.
Okay. I don't know many countries whose people in the diaspora vote in East Africa. In
Rwanda.
And they seem to have been successful
Yes.
in doing that. So if it has been done elsewhere, maybe it can be done here. But now let's look at youth participation when it comes to politics. Where are we standing?
We only have five youth representatives in Parliament, and like I say, this is out of 70% of the youth that make up the population of Uganda. So that means there is a I don't want to call it misrepresentation, but underrepresentation, if that word exists, in Parliament. Yes.
I think that is also another serious reform to look out for. If you're to look at the fact that the members are only representing based on regions, you would say the central region, the eastern region, are having a representative for the youth. Sadly, though, most of them are having their offices situated in Kampala. So the cases, it's only under different circumstances or situations or events where they will find themselves in the regions. So then, if a young person who is living in, let's say, Mbale wants to meet their Kabera Maido wants to meet their representative, they'll have to trace the representative back to Kampala. It's only when the representative is coming back. So you look at it in a way that it is, like you've mentioned, underrepresentation, which is as well undermining the structures through which the young people can air their views.
Well, we'd like for you to share your opinions on what electoral reforms government should adopt as Uganda prepares for the 2026 elections. What electoral reforms government should government adopt as Uganda prepares for the 2026 general elections? You can reach us through WhatsApp number 0709 6025 592. We also are on the X app. You can join us there on the hashtag UBCGMU. Would like to hear from you, your opinion on what electoral reforms the government should adopt as Uganda prepares for the 2026 general elections. Now, we've heard about the reforms the youth are calling for from the government, but what have we done in the past as far as our elections are concerned? What are the pluses and negatives that we need to learn from?
Well, first of all, having representatives of the young people in parliament is a plus, for starters. I think that is more like a foundation being laid, which shows that the young people are being represented in parliament. So it gives us room for improvement, which means there is a starting point. If we are to call for reform, it would be rather a difficult one if the young people didn't have any representative. So in the same space, you can see it is well stipulated in the law that we also have representatives of persons with disability or special interest kind of people. We also have now women representatives, as many as you could look through, because every district has got a woman member of parliament. So that clearly shows you the different, evolution that is actually taking place in our political space. And also the mere fact that we are still having these elections happening. There is a time where you look at, because this is actually a democratic country, it would as well be a very difficult situation if after 5 years we don't see elections happening. So we do know that after 5 years we are having elections. So from a space of 2021 in 2026, we shall be having another election, a chance for Ugandans to vote for new members of parliament, and of course for new representatives on district level, let's say local council level, as well as from the higher position, that is the presidentship in that space. So looking into that, it has also included, though when you look at when it comes to how elections have been conducted, how Ugandans above 18 years have been able to vote, but not all of them were eligible to vote. If you're to look at the 2021 elections, there were those who had been registered, but sadly their names did not appear on the register.
Yes.
During the time of the elections. And I think that is also something that needs to be done. Also, when you look at, I think you did also mention about this before we even went on air, that we do have circumstances whereby the time of registration comes in and someone is, let's say, 17 years old.
But by the time of elections,
they're already 18. And then by the time they're 18, we also this happening. Someone is already to vote, but they can't. I think we also had issues with the national IDs in 2021, whereby some of the Ugandans were not able to vote because of, they didn't have, they lacked identification as citizens of the country. And it also, became a disadvantage to them while appearing on on this electoral poll, rather on the electoral registers. So when you look at in the long run, this is, I think, the same reason as to why NIRA is actually working hard before the 2026 elections to ensure that the renewal of the national IDs is enrolled faster than the elections come through.
Okay, interesting. Now, we mentioned that among the reforms that are being called for is, of course, Ugandans in the diaspora to be able to vote, but also prisoners. Now, prisoners are local. One wonders why, to this day, prisoners don't vote, because they are citizens of the country. They may be in jail, but they are still Ugandans and they still have a right to vote. So where are we standing on that?
On the electoral reforms that were announced this year, as of the coming elections of 2026. It was also included, aside from including the fact that the people in the diaspora would be in position to vote, it was also included that prisoners would be allowed to vote. So I guess now we just have to wait and see how this plan rolls out in 2026. Like, it shouldn't stay on paper, really. But we expect that come 2026, we are going to be having even the prisoners casting their vote.
Okay. Now, when we were still speaking about the issue of funding and where the youth are suggesting that some of the money that is ring-fenced for political parties to, finance political parties when elections are coming up should be, a good percentage should be given to the youth as they also try to comb for votes in different constituencies. Now, it is said that rich parents, have ring-fenced some of these positions because they are able to make these payments for their children. I think it goes back to Chantal's argument that in as much as some of them are from good families, they still end up embezzling funds. But let's go back to the rich parents. If a person is rich or is able to make to pay the nomination fees, maybe 3, maybe 5 million, are we going to stop them because the people that can't afford also need their day?
No, we can't stop them, but the issue right now is on the same thing we discussed last week, which was commercialization of politics. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to commercialize it and not get back down to who is in position to actually bring good ideas and implementation of these things, then that's why we have the question. We can have as many parents as possible pay for their children to be nominated. Also, of course, considering other factors like qualifications academically and stuff like that. If they qualify, let them go ahead. Now, it's entirely now upon us, the voters, to know who has the idea, who has the heart. That is if we get to know anyway. Because, I mean, we've seen, like I said, we've seen people come into power with good ideas. The moment they get there, the ideas are shut.
And it is really saddening because youth elections are some of the mostly monetized elections. And the youth that vote for these people are poor. They're the poor ones, but now they have to look up to their rich friends who may not have the good ideas to vote for them because they can afford to pay the nomination fees, which is really concerning. But we'd like for you to join this conversation. Please share your views on what reforms the government should adopt to, as we head for the 2026 general elections. You can reach us on WhatsApp number 0709602592, and on the X app, the hashtag is UBCGMU. Would like to hear from you. Now, Chantal, or even Jerome Paul, we have seen what the youth want. We've seen what has been happening in the past, but even a broader picture of how the elections have been. So what do you suggest the government should do? What reforms are you suggesting? Or if we already have some of them in place, where do you think needs some, cleaning, for lack of a better word?
The Ugandans in the diaspora. I've been here thinking about the statements the both of you did say about the fact that they are really interested in voting, and I've remembered how vocal they are on social media, and more so even during the time of elections, during campaigns and all that. And it's also said that some of them also fund some of the opposition leaders. So clearly it shows you how interested they are in the politics of the country. I think it is because of the fact that maybe when they are out of the country, they're exposed to some of the other, systems in other countries, and they feel this is something that should happen back home, especially for those who are on contracts, and after this contract they expect to be back. So they believe these are some of the changes that should be worked upon. So as they are airing their views, because we've given them that free space to air their views, social media has given them the space to air their views. So if we are to clearly set up a good roadmap to ensure that these Ugandans in the diaspora can get into this election space and start voting, that will as well be a bigger you know, a bigger statement from my electoral commission. But also my issue still is we need to create a heavy or let's say a standby capacity structure that will see us execute this. You've given an example of how Rwanda executes it and it's always successful. This is how we should as well. If we are to look at a benchmark, this is something that we should look at deeply as well. And also when you look at the nomination fees, I would suggest, because the youth are feeling 5 million is too much for them and it should be 3 million. Now my suggestion is it would be better if it's on different positions, because you wouldn't wish everyone, it should not be leveled. If it's about the youth representation, or let's say members of parliament representing the youth, and it's 3 million, it would be better for us to have quite a number of young people being you know, represented, and we choose who would be better. But if we are to open it up for other, you know, other positions, then we shall be giving room for everybody, for a lot of because someone has money, then I can just,
the 200,000.
you know, the 200,000, I have the 5 million Ugandan shillings, then why not? So I think this is something that is also a very big advantage to us on who should be coming up for certain positions and the like. So I think the money issue should depend on which position.
Yes.
Okay. So there is also that issue of technology. It has been fronted by government to have technology among the reforms to include technology. So in a country where many Ugandans actually want to first see or even feel to believe, and of course we also have the challenge of some people not really being entrenched in this digital era. How do we go about that?
Mass sensitization, accessibility to internet, because much as, yes, some Ugandans are really not very well abreast with internet, with the internet and or the digital era, you can't blame them. Look at accessibility to internet in especially the remote areas of the country. So let's first of all make sure internet is accessible everywhere in the country. Then after that, then we also roll out mass sensitization, because it all starts from there. What people do not know, they will not pay attention to, they will not be interested. But if you let people know that this is how we are going to, and this is the system we're going to use, it gets a lot easier. But then again, there's very many things that we need to sensitize Ugandans about when it comes to elections. That is the truth. There is a lot that Ugandans do not know. For example, people do not even know the mandate of their members of parliament. How far do they go? Where should they be stopping? So when it comes to electoral reforms, like you had asked earlier, I believe we still have a lot of work to do when it comes to sensitization of the masses in the country as a whole.
Okay, there has also been questions, and some Ugandans have challenged the requirement for presidential candidates of a minimum of a Senior 6 certificate. Some people believe that presidential candidates should, at the bare minimum, at least have a university degree.
Bare minimum, yeah, I would say that, because the era where we were considering Form 6, I believe we left that era, so it has to be checked.
Because of the fact that now today you're dealing with intellectuals, and it would be better if you're dealing with an intellectual, you're at the same level or quite higher. Now the majority of Ugandans
gives you the moral authority.
Exactly. We've had some presidential candidates give speeches, discuss certain issues like fiscal policy, and many Ugandans made fun of them because they felt they were not as intellectual as they should be. But should we only consider someone being an intellectual? They could be having ideas.
It contributes to a certain degree and percentage. It contributes something onto that person. Because I mean, who's in your village, is someone going to teach about fiscal policy? No. Those are things you're going to attain in school. One, because the truth is economics runs a big part of the country. Yes. So what are you going to tell me if you cannot discuss some of those things? What plan do you have for me as me who is looking at you as my leader? So at the end of the day, yes, it is actually important for someone to have studied to a particular level.
So Senior 6 out.
I would say yes. As Chantal, I would say
Yeah.
Form 6 should not be the
Well, she
minimum.
says it's supposed to be out because globally you're competing with everyone,
you.
and
You're competing
a
with
lot-
you are
Exactly.
sitting in rooms with people that went to Stanford
Please
and
do
have
not.
So,
Please
however
do not.
much you understand how our country operates, you really need to also have an ear or two about the about the external situations, and how you deal with that is how your intellectuality comes in. You need to be.
We really
up there.
left the era
Six.
of someone sitting and they're like, whatever they tell you, you interpret for me. Really? No. Do you understand? We left, unless if they're translating a language for you. Honestly, short of that.
Anyway,
no.
we have a few views coming through, and of course, if you're just joining the conversation, we are asking you to share your opinions or as regards the electoral reforms that the government should adopt as we head for the 2026 general elections. And of course, the first one, please leave your names. We'd like to know who we are speaking with. The first one says 5 million nomination fee is genuine across the board. Elections are too expensive and costly. One must be ready to feel the pinch. Thank you so much for your view. And this one says, this one has given us a number of options as far as election reforms are concerned. His name is Crispin Kaheru, and he says electoral reforms, revise policy and practice frameworks to ensure that electoral laws strike a balance between the use of technology and credible manual backup plans. Laws that govern the deployment of technology should be crafted with the sensitivity of elections in mind. Suspicion around tech or virtual elements of elections have in some cases escalated into violence. Therefore, laws should suit the context and cultural language. African people often believe by touching and feeling things with their hands. It is a way they trust and understand technology that is devoid of such deeply entrenched cultural nuances could instead cause more harm than good. We need technology that acknowledges amaaso g'omuddugavu gali mu ngalo. I like what he says. And actually, simply put, he says that in as much as technology is very important, we need to put the elections in mind. We need to understand that the electorate that we have is still in an era of I have to see it. I have to touch it. And in most cases, they are very suspicious of technology. For instance, we have national examinations going on right now, and we know that some of the malpractices that have been going on in schools have been through tech.
Right.
So some people are very suspicious. They may think that when you use technology, this is one way of trying to rig the election. So like Chantal said, mass sensitization when it comes to this is very paramount. And this one says, good morning, Chantal. This is Mugisha Juma Hussein, and he says, I think we are wrongly using a word representative in politics. My view doesn't agree with you that there is any member of parliament representing someone else in this country, but they are in parliament to represent themselves. That is why all of them invest money in those positions or seats. Let me ask you a question. If we say youth representatives, what have they done for the youth out there? On the side of prisoners, those are people who have been arrested for some reasons, and while someone is a prisoner means he or she has been deprived of his rights. Really? Because they still have the right to live, they have the right to eat, they have the right to education, they have the right to, be Ugandan. So you can't say their rights have been taken away. A few, like you can't move freely because you are incarcerated, but you should have a right to vote. That is my personal opinion. And he says, a prisoner can't be allowed to have rights of other people, good people, because his rights are controlled for some particular time. Yes, there are some rights that should be that are limited when it comes to prisoners, and you're right. But things like voting, someone may be a petty thief in prison. Does that mean that they don't have a right to choose who their next leader should be?
No, no. It doesn't take away their right because you don't know why they became a petty thief in the first place. So they deserve to go ahead and vote. I mean.
And isn't prison a place where we send people to reform?
Thank you. So definitely we should be having our prisoners voting.
All right, Sonko, parting shots.
Parting shots also, I was looking through some of the other reforms in the, in the electoral space in the country. There is one of campaign rallies in the presidential elections where the presidential candidate is supposed to campaign from 7 a.m. to 6. I think that's a good time if you're to look at campaigning. And also there is also a right to accessing the state-owned media stations. If you are as well a candidate.
Yes, you are supposed to be accessing, yes.
You're also supposed to be accessing. And
state-run media houses like UBC.
Yes, during campaigning time and, air out your views. In a space that you're respectful, I should say, in the choice of words someone is using. At times people use media spaces rather to preach hateful
to do more
speech,
harm than good.
And it's something that also...
Isn't that what they call freedom of speech?
No, freedom of speech is okay, but of course we even have, that is, how's it called, how am I forgetting this law now, where it's all about tracking the kind of information you're spelling out, you're actually selling out to the people. So these are some of the reasons as to why we have such acts in place, that we have we are minimizing or trying to put an end to hateful speech, because someone can tell you something today and it disorganizes you entirely.
Isn't that what politics is all about, though?
No, it's not all about this.
No, politics is not hateful, but people saying things you don't want to hear.
That is okay as long as you are not instigating people, you're not inciting violence. Yes. Now, freedom of speech gets questioned if you are inciting violence in the masses. You are allowed to campaign. You're using state media to campaign. Tell people what you can do for them. Not incite them to go against a particular individual who's probably your rival in politics. It's not supposed to be like that.
Well, I'll take that as Chantal's parting shot. Well, this has been a conversation regarding the reforms that government should adopt as Uganda prepares for the 2026 general elections.
The other act I was talking about is the Computer Misuse Act.
Okay, unfortunately time is against us at this minute, but we can continue this conversation online. My name is Olive Monica Najoma. Thank you so much for watching, and Good Morning Uganda continues.
Of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
Fish Farmers Association tuli balunzi ba byananda ebyebika ebisatu omuli Miracap, tilapia oba engege ni catfish twete male. Group eno twatandika twali abantu basatu nga tulingirira obwetaavu obw'ebyenanda oba obw'ivva eno okubona nti tufuna okasente akava mu maadi agali gatambula butambule nga gatubita ku wano ng'ekirabo. Twatandika ni fish pond ndala mu mwaka gw'e2018. Twebaza fisheries officer ni district ya Bugiri babanga batulagirira ku Sun Fish Farm ebwikwe ni side deidindeyo twabanga tusobola okufuna kwetusaako obugege obwasooka era mu mwaka ogwali 2020 awo basobola okubanga batuwaayo ebyenanda emitwalo $40 okuva mu operation Wellness Creation era okuba yongerezaako emmere yatuweebwa okuva Uganda Poultry Breeders. Twasobola okubanga tusoloza akasente akawerera obukayire nga 42. Twasobola okubanga tubuinvestinga oba okubona nti twongerezaako ku bimu ku bintu bye tukola gano. Twebaza gavumenti yaife okubanga buli saawa efaayo okubanga efe eri Abannayuganda.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. This is GMU Business Update. I'm Jerome Paul Soko. Now, looking ahead, this week is the National Science Week. So all of those into innovation, all of you Ugandans who are into innovation and those who are highly interested in technology, this is the week for you to step up and try to see how you get involved into Uganda's science and technology situation. But well, as we speak business this Monday morning, let's get into it. As we start with fuel prices that are likely to drop according to information that we are now getting. This is in relation to what the president has been able to reveal in most of his key addresses to the nation. Now, the fuel prices are likely to drop as Uganda is contracting bulky suppliers to ensure that they come to an understanding and to help Ugandans, get through such economic times, especially when it comes to fuel prices that are becoming an issue in the country. President Museveni said that since he came into power in 1986, Uganda has been getting petroleum through middlemen. And on his X app or X handle, that is at President Yoweri Museveni, he noted that he got to know about some sham business deals from whistleblowers, and he has since discussed the matter with a colleague, that is President William Ruto, who is the president of Kenya. He has also dispatched another delegation to Dar es Salaam, which is currently discussing the same matter with President Samia Suluhu, who is the president to Tanzania. Now, giving statistics, President Museveni noted that Uganda has been losing $35 on every ton of diesel, $36 on petrol, and $35 on kerosene at the East African ports. So these are some of the key things that the president is looking at in order to address the issue to do with fuel prices in the country. As you can definitely see, the price fluctuations within this market has made it very difficult for some Ugandans to actually maintain their business standards in regards to the transportation, by the way, when you look at how the prices shoot up at times, and it becomes very difficult for some people to actually manage or contain them. Now, focus turns to the parish development model as leaders in Kole district are in hot soup, if it's the word to use, in relation to conniving with banks to swindle the parish development model cash, according to findings. Now, the accusations have surfaced during a monitoring visit by a team from the Directorate of Social Economic Monitoring and Research, which was carried out at the end of last week. The team, headed by the Minister of State for Economic Monitoring, Ms. Beatrice Akelo Akori, is currently monitoring the implementation of various government projects and policies in the Lango sub-region. Now, during the monitoring visit in Kole district on Friday, Ogwang Achuma Ward, Parish Development Model Sacco in Aboke Town Council had quite very disturbing findings because the particular PDM Sacco chairman, Michael Opio, said their group received 106 million shillings and had, however, he had, however, told the team that the money was given to the beneficiaries and yet it was drastically reduced. So these are some of the key findings that the team behind making research on the implementation of the parish development model is actually getting to know about and trying to see whether Ugandans are benefiting from the same, and also trying to know whether Ugandans do know about the availability of the parish development model funds. So these are some of the key situations that are actually happening in the country. But as of today, for you as a Ugandan out there, how much are you interested in knowing about the parish development model? Because the government is assuring that you can at least benefit from the same. Remember, the core value or the core objective of the parish development model was to ensure that Ugandans get into the money economy. Now, besides that, as we sum up with the business update this morning, we look at the forex market. The United States dollar was buying at 3,779.88 while selling at 3,789.88. And closing, the US dollar was buying at 3,776.75 while selling at 3,786.75. The Great Britain pound was buying at 4,610.27 while selling at 4,622.48. The euro was buying at 4,014.68 while selling at 4,025.31. The Kenyan shilling buying at 24.99 shillings while selling at 25.06 shillings. Tanzanian shilling buying at 1.50 shillings while selling at 1.51 shillings. The South African rand, on the other hand, buying at 205.61 shillings while selling at 206.15 shillings. So that is what is coming in from the forex market as you get out of your business door and you're heading into this market to purchase more currencies in that regard, or to exchange the currencies. That would be the better word. Now, lastly, we head to the press review, but first we revisit our top headlines in Uganda. As the New Vision highlights, President Museveni is saying, I congratulate CID and ISO on the good work in relation to the Kagezi case as key suspects are arrested. Now, in crime, controversy erupts over businessman shot dead. Read about that. In the other news, President Museveni speaks out on oil import deal. As also in the health magazine, how to tell your beloved you have HIV, how to actually come out and reveal the deep secret in that way. And also Chabazinga 6 Bunyoro blessings ahead of the royal wedding. Besides that, police impound luxury cars suspected stolen from the United Kingdom as Bishop Stewart kicks out Nkozi University in quiz competition. Now, the Daily Monitor director has been arrested over defiling 6 P7 pupils. And in the health living, how to handle prostate cancer. Then 5 government officials in hot water for leaving drugs in rain, as President Museveni says we now have suspects in Kagezi killing. Now, in the obituaries, the many hats former CID boss Bakiza wore as Dr. Kazungu. Read about the grandfather of education who passed on. Now, there is a pictorial in relations to the blocked city routes as works on city roads and railway disrupt transport in the capital. President Museveni's plan to lower cost of fuel also revealed in the Daily Monitor. Now, crossing the borders to Kenya, the Daily Nation, there is a list of best 150 MPs in Kenya that have been given out or that have actually been put into this edition. Then also poll bursary, school infrastructure, water, roads and electricity connections cited by voters in naming the best 150 best 150 performing members of parliament in Kenya. Now, the UK envoy says we are open to talks on reparations in Kenya. The 9 counties record surge in new HIV cases as impeachment, Kawira's moment of truth as Senate decides her fate. Now, in relations to climate change, El Nino, weatherman now warns of heavy rains in the country. Well, that's it for business and the press review. It's Monday. Let's get going out there to chase the bag. But as we are getting going, or what you could say, as we prepare for a brand new week, which seems to be a very promising one as well for the business community that will be making some good money in Jinja starting Thursday, it is time for us to check out what is making headlines and rather what is happening with the traffic in Kampala.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned what's happening in Jinja, because far be it from you not to be excited about that. And of course, I'm sure business people in Jinja are excited. They're going to mint money. Now, in the press review you shared, there was a pictorial of city roads that have been blocked as roadworks go ahead. And of course, people from those areas are going to be disturbed quite some this morning. And of course, the places I'm talking about are areas of Bugolobi and surrounding. Now, I will start traffic updates. Oh, by the way, my name is Olive Monica Najima, and I'll start traffic updates by looking at a notice from Uganda Railways, and it says Uganda Railways Corporation informs motorists and the general public there will be a temporary closure of the following level crossings along Old Port Bell Road for a period of 14 days between Monday 6th, which is today, and Monday 20th November 2023 to pave way for construction works to commence. The areas affected are Wankoko Railway Level Crossing, access road to the National Water and Sewerage Corporation Resource Centre. And they are asking you to note that a temporary access road is being prepared to connect Old Port Bell Road to Spring Road. And of course, they regret any inconveniences occasioned by the closures. So if you're coming from those areas, we decided for our traffic updates to look at that route and see how best you can get to the middle of town. And of course, which places to avoid and where there could be traffic jam. We will start from Chitintale. We will look at the Chitintale Road as it joins Old Port Bell Road to see how that area is going. Now, from what I see and from what you may be seeing on your screen, there is that orange zone over there, which indicates that traffic is starting to build as you join the Old Port Bell Road in Chitintale. Now, looking at Old Port Bell Road as you go to the areas of Bugolobi, there is smooth flow of traffic when you're still in Chitintale. So if you're still around that area, traffic hasn't caught up yet, so you should be able to move. But now as you approach Chireka Road, which comes from Chinawataka side, and you join Old Port Bell Road around Silver Springs Hotel, this is where the traffic jam starts. As you can see, those red zones, they're indicative of traffic that has built up in that area of town. But the good news is that as you move along, you're going to find some good traffic flow as you go past Silver Springs Hotel. But as you continue to that intersection that joins Spring Road to Port Bell Road, you're going to find a little bit of traffic jam that has built up. Now, continuing ahead to New Port Bell Road, you're going to encounter traffic jam that is coming through from Chwatu Road joining Ismail Road. Actually, if you're coming from Ismail Road, many people use Ismail Road as an alternative route to get to Bugolobi. But this morning, it actually looks extremely jammed up. The red zones are deep and deep. And if you look at Ismail Road from where it starts, you're going to realize that the entire Ismail Road has traffic jam this morning, and it looks quite intense. That is Ismail Road on your screen up there, and the deep red zones are even deeper. And when the red zones are deeper, it means it is that intense traffic jam where you sometimes have to even switch off your ignition. Now, continuing ahead, looking at Ismail Road, as I've said, the whole of it has traffic jam. Now it feeds into Chwatu Road, which now feeds into New Port Bell Road. Now Now let's have a look at Chwatu Road this morning, and of course it also doesn't look good at all. There is intense traffic jam over there, but it lets up a bit as you join Roger Mugabe Road over there. So the whole area of Bugolobi this morning, I think due to the roadworks that are going on, has plenty of traffic jam this morning. So if that's the area where you're headed or where you're coming from, please be advised to plan your routes carefully. Now looking at Spring Road, there seems to be smooth flow of traffic this morning up until you reach the area that joins 5th Street to Spring Road. There is intense traffic jam, and of course as you move along, Spring Road is also intense when it comes to traffic this morning. Even with the area that joins Spring Road to 4th Street is also fully caught up in traffic. So if that's the area you're coming from, also keeping note that there are roadworks going on, you may be delayed on the road for quite some time this morning. So if those are the areas you're coming from or where you're headed, you need to plan your movements really carefully, keeping in mind that Wankoko is currently closed off, and it will be closed off for the next 14 days. Well, I wish you luck as you maneuver to go to your final destination, as you maneuver to go to your place of work, place of business, and of course I wish you a beautiful week as you go along on the road. And of course remember that you have the responsibility to safeguard the lives of people on the road, your life and that of other road users. My name is Olive Monica Najama, and this has been the Traffic Updates.
Pick of the day on UBC. Was brought to you by MTN Momo Pay is the easy way to pay. Dial *165*3# or use the MTN Momo app. You don't need cash. MTN Momo Pay is safe and free.
We are running the program of parish development model. That is a model, a strategy that is supposed to enhance wealth creation by engaging 39% of the population that is not into the money economy. So far as a district, we have 56 parish development circles, and they have accessed funds. Last year we received about 560 million shillings, of which we have disbursed that money to them, and each beneficiary receives a maximum of 1 million shillings. Those PDM circles are into 56 parishes across the district, and so far we have no complaint about the disbursements and the receiving of the funds, which I think is a very positive note, because people have been talking about funds not being received elsewhere, but for Bushenyi, all those who have applied for the funds have received it, especially the revolving fund.
Ajuko.
Yo.
Wachiko. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Uganda, haven't you heard of the parish development model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Ajuko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
My name is Atube Richard, a member of a group called Kanyope, located in Bungatira sub-county. This group started in 2008, but the Prelnol project started supporting us in 2009. The project has offered us training on farming, and the training we got has helped us immensely. We used to farm in a traditional way, planting a variety of crops. But when the team from Prelnor approached us, they asked us to choose particular seeds to grow which can yield very well in our area. We chose groundnuts and rice, which we are growing. With this kind of farming, the project also taught us how to sell as a group after finding a market. The support from the project has been so good to us.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again. You are still watching Good Morning Uganda on UBC Television. We are glad that you get to join us at this hour. We continue to discuss matters of national importance, and this very Monday morning we are going to be literally looking at the state of human rights in Uganda. And of course I do have the right person on set with me to answer every single question that you could be having as well out there in regards to human rights. Please, let's keep it polite and ask questions that are going to give us the answers that we are looking for. But first, just taking a look at an overview of the state of human rights in our country. And I get this from different opinions that are out there in the public that seem to have questions on the way human rights seem to be, how can I put it, the way we look at human rights in the country, how we preserve them. And that is why we are saying, let us have this conversation. And of course, it also originates from especially the side of the opposition in Uganda that seems to believe that the human rights are not upheld. And this is why we're saying, let's have this conversation this very morning. With me is the chairperson, Uganda Human Rights Commission, and that is Miss Mariam Wangadia. And I'm so glad that she could make some time early morning to be with us. A very good morning to you.
Thank you, Chantal. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for coming, for sparing time for us to have this conversation.
All right.
Great. And straight into the conversation, we would like to know an overview on how we are standing as a country, irrespective of what the media has out there, how we are standing, because you are the people that are in a place that has all the information in terms of who is right, who is wrong, how much has been extended, and how much should we be extending. How do we stand as a country when it comes to human rights?
When it comes to human rights situation in Uganda,
yes,
I would say the situation is normal, actually above average. They say perfection is the enemy of the good. When you are a perfectionist,
right,
you may not see the good around you.
Because you're looking for perfect all the time.
Yes, because you are always aiming at 100%. But why do I say the situation is normal? One, when you compare Uganda with other countries, we are not faring any worse. Actually, we are, I think, much better than many other countries. We have independent and functional institutions.
Right.
Like, let me start with mine, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, which is a constitutional body created to protect and promote fundamental human rights and freedoms. And we do this in several ways, by identifying the human rights issues of that day, talking loud about them, and also investigating complaints of human rights violations. We are actually a unique national human rights institution in that we have judicial or quasi-judicial powers. We convene our court sessions, we call them tribunal sessions.
As a Human Rights Commission?
Yes, where we hear cases and give redress where it is due. We have the courts of judicature, which are independent at all levels, starting with the lowest, grade 1 magistrate, all the way to the Supreme Court. On a daily basis, cases are registered in those courts, and they are adjudicated upon, and justice is dispensed. We have a vibrant civil society, one of the most vibrant in the world, functioning freely and talking about issues of that day, talking for those groups maybe which may not be have the confidence to speak out for themselves. I always hear them. I attend some of their activities, the advocacy activities. They write and publish reports regularly. We enjoy freedom of expression. We rank very high, in my view. And you find a situation where people are free to talk about any topic of that day, about issues concerning them, maybe the state of the roads, maybe the state of the education standards, health facilities, and they call in. Even now, UBC, somebody will call in, critique any government official, and they end by saying, I'm Mariam Wangadia of Chinawataka, Mbuya, so freely.
Freely, without
yes.
there will be...
In my area of birth, I don't know how many FM radio stations we have today. The last I checked, we were nearing 20. And then print media. How about social media? So all that is freedom of expression. We have a vibrant democracy. Every 5 years we have free and fair elections. At so many levels. I think Uganda will rank very high when it comes to levels of representation. I sometimes feel I'm overrepresented. I don't know how many other countries elect their village leaders, but we do that. Regularly we are free to change our leaders when we feel they are underperforming. We have affirmative action, which is rooted in the Constitution, which addresses, which aims to uplift hitherto marginalized groups like persons with disabilities, women, and even going out to those ethnic groups I had never heard of before, like the Ik in Karamoja, the Bennett, so that all these people are represented. For the first time ever, we have a member of parliament for the Ik, and the affirmative action goes all the way. It cuts across gender and interest groups. It goes beyond politics. Even in education, yes.
Because on that very note, we've been seeing reports, especially when it comes to Uganda, when you talk about what they call the biggest issues or human rights issues in Uganda today. They will list some of those that you've just mentioned. Talk about conduct of security forces, freedom of expression and assembly. Talk about attack on civil society groups.
Yes.
Those are some of the things that are mentioned when it comes to the biggest human rights issues in Uganda today. And when we are diving deeper into these conversations, what are the misconceptions that are out there when it comes to some of these issues that are being brought forward?
Misconceptions about
these human rights issues. For example, if someone says there is a tax on civil society groups, it could be from an outsider view, but yet inside the Human Rights Commission, there is information that they are not privy to, or they don't get to know of. Or sometimes the people that post these things are also biased sometimes. So that is why it would be great for someone to get to know that there could be a case where they are misinformed on thinking that there is no freedom of expression and assembly. There could be a misconception on them thinking that there is a tax on these civil society groups.
Periodically, there will always be issues of infringement of certain freedoms.
Right.
Of course, I should also add that human rights and freedoms are not absolute. Except only for human rights which are absolute, which are non-derogable, like the right to freedom from slavery
yes.
or servitude, the right to freedom from torture, the right to habeas corpus, and the right to a fair hearing. All the other rights can be invaded,
give or take, yes,
for the sake of balancing those rights with the public good. And I said that civil society groups and other individuals in the community, Uganda, may have issues, may feel unhappy about certain steps taken by state agencies. But what is important is how we respond to those perceived or real infringements. At the Human Rights Commission, we have a unit we created under the Directorate of Monitoring and Inspections to handle issues of marginalized groups.
Right.
To handle issues of, we have a desk created specifically for receiving complaints from civil society groups. But I should say it's one of the most redundant or idle desks. We hardly receive any of those complaints. I'm aware that some time back there were civil society groups whose bank accounts were suspended. They could not operate. And I have learned that they have since been opened. But they also went to court. And as you may know, we do not have jurisdiction in any matter pending before court or which has been heard by court. So I think that those issues were resolved. But as far as I can see, civil society groups in Uganda operate freely. Yes.
So, you know, what I was trying to bring out that I'm glad I've got is the fact that people have this misconception on how the Human Rights Commission is operating. And maybe they're not even aware that there is where also the Human Rights Commission stops, and then now the courts take over and you don't get to determine what happens in there. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Great. And that now leads me to briefly about the mandate of the Human Rights Commission, because you mentioned something to do with the desk being redundant that takes complaints, for example, for civil society organizations. And the question would be, much as the desk is available and now we are saying it's redundant, the question is, do these people actually trust the commission, or do they know how far to go or even how to access the Rights Commission for them to be able to present their complaints properly? Some may not know how to do that properly, but others may not know if their complaint is going to be put into consideration or even given the magnitude of attention that they feel it deserves. So in this case, maybe you could give us a bit of the mandate of the commission. Then now maybe we can look at if these people can actually think about using the desk going forward, or knowing when and how to use the desk.
Chantal, the mandate of the commission is very clearly spelled out in Article 52, Clause 1 of the Constitution. I will be very brief. To investigate at our own initiative or upon a complaint made by a person against the violation of any human right, to visit places of detention, to assess conditions of inmates, to establish a continuing program of research, education and information to enhance respect for human rights, to recommend to Parliament effective measures to promote human rights, including provisions of compensation to victims of violations of human rights, to create and sustain in society awareness of the provisions of this Constitution as the fundamental law of the land, to educate and encourage the public to defend this Constitution, to monitor government compliance with international human rights instruments. Briefly, this is the mandate of the Commission. How to access us is very easy. We have 12 regional offices across the country, and we also have 11 field offices. The field offices support regional offices in those regions which are big. For example, in West Nile region, we have a regional office in Arua, but a field office in Moyo, and so on and so forth. We can also be reached by telephone. We also launched an app, UHRC app, through which complaints can be received, and actually the progress of investigation or hearing can be tracked
using the application,
using the app.
Right.
So that's how we can be accessed. As to whether some people have confidence or not in the Commission, I think they should have confidence in us. And it's the reason why on a daily basis we receive complaints. By the way, sometimes even on weekends. On average, we receive across the country, our regional offices, field offices, I think on a daily basis we receive around 15 complaints.
Right.
And you always hear us convening our court sessions across the country to hear cases which are always very well attended. I do not think that is a show of no confidence. By the way, among the people who say that we are underperforming and those who are calling for my resignation, they have cases before
the Rights Commission,
before our tribunal, and some of them are appearing as counsel in those cases. So I do not believe that the public out there does not have confidence.
Well, on that very note, briefly, the National Unity Platform recently was actually bashing the Human Rights Commission, and of course we've had all these complaints, especially from the opposition over the years, starting with even just 2020 during the campaigns in November and everything that happened going forward after that. The National Unity Platform and supporters of the same, they always come out to say that the Commission is not doing its mandate, and that I believe because the opposition has a very how can I call it, they are very vocal when it comes to even the public and the perception of the public on the Commission, and it's at this point that maybe we would have to explore options on how best we can bridge the gap between the Commission and the general public, irrespective of what is being said out there.
Is there a need for us to bridge a gap between us and the public? The presumption is there is a gap, yet we serve the public and we are with them on a daily basis. We interact with members of the public. In my humble opinion, there is no gap to bridge. And we are judged by the public on how we perform, and the public includes members of the opposition, members of the ruling party, and actually we are answerable to Parliament and the public, because the Parliament comprises elected people's representatives.
Right.
It is Parliament which vets us when we are nominated. We take annual reports to the Speaker of Parliament, that is every year, which are scrutinized by the Human Rights Committee of Parliament. So, by the way, be informed that the President General of the National Unity Platform has 2 cases before the Commission, one of which we are hearing. If he did not have, if NUP did not have confidence in the Human Rights Commission, they would not have brought these cases.
Right.
And that one of the cases is part hard. It's coming up soon for further hearing. And there are others, including the 30 missing people.
Yes, that the voice put forward.
Yes, that complaint was brought to us. Or rather, I wrote to the Secretary General of NUP, who furnished me with a list of those 30 people, said to be missing. If he did not have confidence in us, he would not have brought that complaint. Right. And indeed, we investigated it to the very end and published a report.
Right.
So I do not believe that there is any gap
that needs to be bridged. You mentioned being accountable to Parliament, and yes. Recently we saw opposition members of Parliament boycotting plenary because of what they termed as human rights abuse, and we believe that this could have been handled better. Especially, they didn't have to put a hold on every other business in Parliament for that. Isn't there a point where they should have had conversations with the Commission before even getting further to that point?
I should say members of Parliament, first of all, are privileged. They have a platform, a national platform, through which they can discuss anything. I've had several of them raising what they call issues of great national importance. So I wish the honorable members of the NUP would utilize that platform to discuss, to table for discussion any issue of which concerns the wananchi they represent. And Parliament has committees, one of which is a Human Rights Committee.
Right.
That committee is one of the biggest committees, comprising, among others, members of the National Unity Platform. And I'm aware that the issues over which they have worked out were fully investigated by that committee. A report was compiled on which NUP MPs appended their signatures. The difference is that the report has not been tabled for discussion. In my humble view, the honorable members of Parliament should demand that that report is tabled for discussion.
Great.
We too investigated those same issues and issued a report, a copy of which I have here.
Right.
So, but I said in Uganda we have the right to freedom of expression. Sometimes we express ourselves by walking away from our offices, through boycotts. All that is freedom of expression.
Great. Great. Thank you so much. We are still having a conversation with Miss Mariam Wangadia, who is the chairperson of Uganda Human Rights Commission. And briefly, the discussion is on the state of human rights in the country. And, you know, there is a lot of, like I said, a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misinformation out there, both on the public and on the side of the commission. And these are some of the things that we are trying to clear. And we are glad that we get to have this conversation with the rightful person. Now, again to you, Ms. Wangadia, there is another part of, another part of the public that seems to believe, and this was seen stretching from November 2020 to 2021, where cases were being brought forward, you know, the security bodies beating up people and all this information being out there. And someone would stand and say, even as witnessed on people posting on social media, would stand and say that the commission is not doing much to help whoever has a complaint on human rights. And others tended to run it to the fact that they think the commission is partisan or it is politically influenced. And this is the part where at least one or two examples would help a Ugandan notice and see that, listen, this commission is independent of any political affiliation, and it is serving the Ugandans.
Recently, I wrote an article titled, Let's Depoliticize Human Rights.
Right.
Thankfully, it was published. And I despise politicization of human rights.
Right.
I know that we are independent. We are not influenced by any person or authority. Talking about the 2020 violence, the way you coached your question that security personnel were beating up people, I sometimes prefer to talk as a Ugandan who lives here, rather than a chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. Chantal, was that violence had a genesis?
Yes, it did.
Which you know very well.
Yes.
And sometimes questions put to me around that issue quite a little bit tilted, much as they question my independence. But the people who pose these questions also sometimes come out as a little partisan.
Biased, yes.
I've not been asked, for instance, about a group of women who were beaten and undressed in the streets of Kampala because they were wearing yellow clothes.
Right.
Those whose handbags were snatched from them and their mobile telephones, those whose vehicles were set ablaze, those whose houses were set ablaze by a known group of people. I have not been asked about a lady police officer, ASP Kasule. I think even UBC, you showed that.
Yes.
This lady who was chased, and when she fell down, somebody lifted a very heavy, huge stone and beat her, stoned her on the head.
Right.
By the way, I don't know the state in which she is, assuming she's still alive. I have not been asked about that. The question always thrown at me is, what have you done about the security personnel who beat up opposition supporters? I think we should, human rights cut across political parties. They are not a preserve of any group of people. But to answer your question directly, we investigated those cases, and we learned that many of them actually were settled out of court. The Office of the Attorney General is handling those payments of compensations. Yes, but in the future, I wish that all human rights of every person, whether they support the opposition or government, should be preserved. Yes, should be elevated, put at the same platform. Yes.
You know, the reason as to why we sometimes center on this is because it's what gives people, it's what forms most of the people's opinions. because it's more vocal, it's more vocally put out there, and it's when you get to have conversations with maybe a border guy out there, or someone who, you know, at a particular shop when you're buying something, they're going to center on the very same and give you what they feel they know or think they have seen. And that is why sometimes we center some of those questions on the same, because they're actually more vocally put. For example, someone here is asking, Madame Mariam, this is Mr. Lubongoya of NUP, for example. He always accuses you of not acting according to the law. And the endless kidnaps of NUP members rotting in prison under the watch of the Uganda Human Rights Commission. And the question would be, what has the commission done about it? So you realize that someone is centering their question on what has been vocally presented out there. Yes.
People who constantly accuse security agencies in Uganda of kidnaps, abductions and disappearances, I think are defaming not just those agencies, but the country. We did a thorough investigation on alleged disappearances, and we issued a report. By the way, there is a difference between an arrest and a kidnapping.
And yes.
And private individuals can kidnap people, can abduct them. So, and at first I heard that thousands of Ugandans were being kidnapped, those who support the opposition.
Yes.
I happened to have traveled to Addis Ababa at one time, and a colleague who heads a national human rights institution in Africa asked me, how are you coping with all those thousands of Ugandans who are disappearing from the face of the earth? And when I requested for a list of those thousands from the NUP, I was given a list of 30 people who are said to have disappeared. And my investigation revealed 12 of them were either facing a trial and were out on bail, and others were answering charges at police, charges of terrorism, murder, and tampering with electricity wires. Some are facing trial in Mwanga 2 court, and they were actually surprised to hear that their names were on that list. Then others, if I had the time to share with you what we discovered, you will find that the viewers will reach their own conclusions. But briefly, in the interest of time, let me share something about somebody who is now being talked about a lot, called Chibalama John Bosco.
Yes, yes.
We were given this name as part of the list submitted to us by Mr. Rubongoya. And he gave us the name Nakanjako Sauda as a sister to Kibalama John Bosco. Yes. Usually somebody called John Bosco would not have a sister called Sauda, but anyway, this is it. We made several attempts to trace and record the statement of Sauda. Sauda gave us the name of Naturinda Rita, who is said to be a wife to Chibalama.
Chibalama, yes.
Yes. She has not been cooperative with the commission team and intentionally refused to give us any information. Specifically, during the period July to August 2023, our team reached out to Naturinda through her known telephone number, and she claimed that her husband is still missing, but informed us that she was in Kachiri. She was unable to talk to us. Mark Youth, they first told us that she's in Bugolobi. She said she was in Kachiri. When my team went to Kachiri, she refused to answer their calls. But when, so this was aimed at tracing her so that we record her statement.
Yes.
However, when they used a different phone number, she picked the call. and she requested us to give her a few minutes to avail herself. She switched off her phone. So, if your husband is missing,
and you really care so much,
you really care so much, you do not behave like that.
Right.
And Chantal, today I want to, you are a journalist, to challenge you to trace the family of the late Bishop Wasite of Mbale Diocese then, who was kidnapped and disappeared forever. And try to listen to their story. Look for his wife or son and listen to them and see whether they would behave this way. Look for the family of Chief Justice Benedicto Chiwanuka.
Right.
Yes, and talk to them. When your husband or brother or son is missing, you talk to even a mad person.
Because you really want that person found.
So, and that leads me to a certain conclusion that perhaps these people have even never existed, because even the details given to us were not sufficient. The particulars given to us.
Right. And thank you so much for enlightening us on that very report, because a lot of information out there seems to put the commission on the spot that it's actually not doing its mandate or doing what it's supposed to be doing. And this is the part where I would like to hear from you as we are getting close to the conclusion of this part of the show. I do have some comments as well that I'm going to be reading out, but briefly, my other question would be, what isn't Uganda doing right, or what hasn't been done, or what aren't we doing? Because if we still have, say for example, people who are not cooperating with the commission, we still have people out there who seem to think, especially opposition, that the commission is not doing its mandate. What are we doing wrong as a country, and how best can we handle that?
What we are doing wrong as a country on this particular issue?
On the issue of human rights abuse and upholding human rights.
Maybe we are not vocal enough. Maybe we are not. You see, I speak for the Human Rights Commission, not state institutions.
Right.
Maybe those institutions need to come out louder to speak for themselves. Because for us, we do investigations, we make our reports public.
Right.
Like I made this report public. So I put in a lot of effort with actually our entire investigation budget for our regional office in Central. Went to investigating these issues owing to their importance. So what more can we do? We cannot stop people from judging us and making their conclusions, but we also have conclusions about them.
Right.
Yes. After I issued this report, it didn't take even an hour before a busload of people arrived at my office, demonstrating with the placards. Somebody is saying, I'm Mrs. Damulira, Mrs. Chibalama. And I mean, this was a minibus full of people whose relatives are said to have disappeared from across this region, Central region. I don't know how possible it is that somebody could have traveled from Nakaseke, for
in the
instance,
shortest time possible.
Chotera, within that time, and they are here in Kampala. Sometimes I wonder whether these are not hired people.
Right.
And by the way, I have information that many of these people who pose as victims of human rights violations are hired dramatists. I have that information. One day, barring the retribution against some of those people, I would come here and I read a statement of one of them, or two, who say we were hired to play this role, but now we are out of it. So again, let the public we serve judge us.
You know, on that very note, you've mentioned about the commission doing all these investigations and all that. The other question would be, do you take time off, for example, to visit these prisons? Because some claim that some of these people are in torture chambers, and it could also be just propaganda being put out there for the sake of pushing a particular mandate when it comes to abuse of human rights. So the question would be, is it true that some of these people, like the ones in the report, are actually in custody or they are in torture chambers, depending on what is being put out there?
I'm not aware of any designated, any place designated as a torture chamber in Uganda. And we are able to visit any place of detention in Uganda. For me, I've not come across a torture chamber.
As it's being put out.
As it's being put out there. And true, we have visited places of detention. And originally, by the way, like I said, the list first given to us arising from the 2020 November disappearances. Many of the people on that list were found in prisons on remand, facing trial for several crimes, ranging from some of them really violent crimes, malicious damage to property especially. Public property, but also property of individuals.
Yes.
I talked about setting ablaze people's vehicles, houses. So we have visited places of detention as part of this investigation. And we haven't come across any of the people, of the 30 people listed here. But judging from the conduct of the next of kin, and the fact that we requested for certain particulars which were not given to us, and other factors, I tend to think maybe we are actually dealing with people who have never existed. You are a media person and you know about somebody called Eric Mwesigwa, who was brought to us as having been burnt on their chest by security agencies for supporting NUP. And you know how the story unfolded. He said he had been promised a certain amount of money, 50 million shillings.
Which wasn't given.
Yes, actually this gentleman was given a deposit of 250,000 shillings of that 50 million shillings. And well, he was promised he would be treated, which did not happen. We were at one time presented with somebody called Alexandros Marinos, who was said to have been raped by UPDF soldiers for listening to I didn't want to say, to use this other name, Honorable Robert Chagulanyi's music, and for that she was gang raped.
Apparently.
Yes. And listening to her, eventually her story changed. It reminded me of somebody called Candida Lakonyi. I don't know, are you old enough to remember?
I remember the stories of Lakonyi.
Yes, Candida Lakonyi was again paraded as having been gang raped by UPDF soldiers.
Back then,
Yes. So, but we have a modern day Candida Lakonyi, but this time given Greek names. So we have been presented with torture cases which turn out to be
falsified
accident victims. So you sometimes wonder what the whole purpose of all this drama is.
Thank you so much, Miss Mariam Wangadia, first of all, for being with us. Our time is fast spent. I'm just going to go through some of the comments and then we can have our parting shots. So someone says, this is Simple Williams. He says, a prisoner is under the law. So if you fail to exercise your rights when you are free, then you can't make it better when you are under the law. I don't know if that sounds correct, but I don't think it is.
I don't even understand.
Good morning, dear presenter in the house. I am Dominic in Park District. What happens to the LC ones who do not know English, like in villages? Oh, I think this person is responding to something else. Good morning and thanks for the day program regarding Human Rights Commission and awareness. My name is Ethan and I would like to hear from our visitor. Any industrial court of Uganda can take like 7 years to make a judgment on a case where one sought residence or unlawful termination from a job. Does it call for all this when the case was up to 2017?
Oh, do I answer that now?
Yes, please.
There are do's and don'ts. We do not have the mandate to inquire into performance of courts or to investigate any issue in a court, which has been decided upon by court.
Hopefully now that is not, because those are some of the things people are basing on to think the Human Rights Commission is not working. But if you could repeat that, the Uganda Human Rights Commission does not have the mandate
to inquire into the performance of courts or to investigate any matter pending hearing in court, or which has been heard by court. But I can advise this person to petition maybe the inspector of courts or the principal judge. But before he does that, he should go back to this same court, the industrial court, and he can write a letter to the judge who presides over the industrial court requesting that hearing of his matter is expedited.
Right. Yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Wangadia, for being with us this morning. Unfortunately, our time is fast spent, but that last part is really helpful because most people's questions seem to be centered on when court fails, what next? And it's been now noted that if the issue is in court, then the Uganda Human Rights Commission cannot look into it at that point.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. If you have any parting shots, then we can call it a wrap.
I have a parting shot. Thank you, Chantal, for the opportunity. I have launched a campaign against hate speech, which I think is on the rise, especially perpetrated by, unfortunately, some elected leaders in the country. And hate speech must stop. Right. I have summoned at least 2 members of parliament over hate speech, and one of them apologized, and I asked him to go back to his constituency and apologize to the people he offended and targeted in his hate speech. And I have also launched a campaign against mob violence, what some people call mob justice.
Yes.
Actually, that so-called mob justice has no scintilla of fairness in it. Somebody is presumed guilty, instantly judged,
no investigation.
And usually they are sentenced to death, which the sentence is carried out instantly, regardless of how trivial or big the case against them is. So that is mob violence, it is not justice. I also want to call upon the public to end what they call domestic violence.
Right.
It also seems to be on the increase. And actually mob violence masks serious crimes, violent crimes. And I tend to think when we call them domestic violence, we trivialize them. I'm talking about killings, homicides, cases where one spouse violently kills another,
yes,
battering children, and sometimes actually maiming them, killing them on alleged theft of little monies. And I want that to end.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for also throwing some light on some of those cases. Well, our time is fast spent. Hopefully we can get to have a further conversation another time to make sure that we also get deeper into especially the domestic violence bit. For now, thank you so much for coming through and for having this conversation with us. And for you, our dearest viewer, thank you for your opinion and thank you for watching. Good Morning Uganda continues. Coming up is the sports update with Ruben.